Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to also make my contribution in this bill that is before us. Mr. Speaker, the county governments get their resources from three main revenue sources. There is their own generated revenue resource. There is the equitable share, which is a big revenue resource. And Mr. Speaker, there is this one that we are debating, which is the additional revenue allocation. So these are the three main resources or source of revenues for county government. Mr. Speaker, in this financial year, the current financial year, the amount of money that is allocated under the second source of revenue, this is the equitable share, is at 370 billion. Then, Mr. Speaker, the amount of money that we are passing in the third heading that I've said, which is the additional revenue source, has two headings. There is the amount of money that is given through the national government. That is, apart from the 370 billion, the national government can decide to give more, to allocate more under the additional allocation bill. And also, we have also loans and grants that come under this additional revenue allocations. So, Mr. Speaker, the question I am asking myself, the national government, under the heading of additional revenue allocation, has decided to make 5 headquarters. They have allocated 5 county headquarters, and they have also allocated money for leasing medical equipment, which a previous senator has referred to. Mr. Speaker, if this 370 billion has already been allocated as equitable share, and the national government has money, further money, to allocate as to build county headquarters, 5 as I have referred to, and also has money to allocate to counties to lease medical equipment, it means there is enough money, or there is more money that we can secure under the heading of equitable share. Mr. Speaker, the Constitution says that we are entitled at the very minimum for county government not to get less than 15% in terms of the equitable share. The point I'm trying to make, Mr. Speaker, at 370 billion, we are at 26%. But still, the national government has been able to find more money and additional allocation heading to give 5 headquarters, building for 5 counties, to also pay billions of money for medical equipment leasing. So, Mr. Speaker, I wanted to make this point, that instead of giving the equitable share to remain at 26%, we pray that in this new administration of His Excellency Dr. William Ruto, county governments will see a huge leap from 26% to even 40, 50%. We are saying this because, Mr. Speaker, the government at the national level is saying take 370 billion. And then, under additional revenue, they are saying, oh, we shall lease for you medical equipment, every county, the ones that we are complaining about. They are also saying, we shall build for you county headquarters. Mr. Speaker, what is the logic of this? Why can't they give these second-level governments their own money to decide what they do? Mr. Speaker, I propose that those who are listening to this debate, that the Senate is saying, let us raise this amount from 26%. Let us not have 370 billion. This additional allocation bill is demonstrating, Mr. Speaker, that there is more money that the national government is remaining with, and they know it. Mr. Speaker, it is a big wrong and a terrible wrong, and the previous senator has said it, that the county governments are being forced into leasing medical equipment. They never participated in the tendering. They never knew who the suppliers were, and then they are being given money to pay back to the same people that the national government was negotiating with. It is an injustice, Mr. Speaker. It is wrong. And I want to say that it is a disrespect to the second level of government. We have said in this constitution, the people of Kenya want 2 levels of government. And these 2 levels of government must respect each other, Mr. Speaker. This Senate must put its foot down and say we cannot have contracts being decided at the national government for health functions. It does not make any sense. We may not need some of the equipment that we are being forced, for example, to lease in Tana River County Hospital in Hola. We may not need, and they may force us, because of this arrangement, to take those machines, and we don't have trained staff to run those machines. Those machines that are being taken to our county hospitals by force, Mr. Speaker, those machines that are being given to our county hospitals, leased, as we are saying here, by some companies which are of dubious character. Mr. Speaker, you will find if one little spanner breaks down, one little screw breaks down, we are not able to repair them. We don't have even contacts of suppliers. Suppliers don't respond. All they know is that there is money which is being given to the county government, and it is deducted at the source. So what we are doing here, it is just, playing around with our minds. People are reading here, under medical leasing services, we have received, I don't know how many, 100 and what million. And it is being deducted at the source. So people are playing with our minds. People are disrespecting counties, Mr. Speaker. This administration, Mr. Speaker, of the new president who has taken over, Mr. Speaker, I urge him and his new minister in charge of the Treasury, Professor Ndungu, they should get away from the old habits of the previous administration. We must cut links with this kind of behavior where they are deciding for us what we should be leasing at the county level. Mr. Speaker, I hope they are listening, because we as defenders of the county governors and county governments, we are not happy being given equipment we cannot service, we cannot run, we have no personnel that we have trained to run those equipments, and then money is deducted. And here, it's being shown Tana River County has received, I don't know how many millions on behalf of the county of Tana River, which they never saw because it was deducted at source. Mr. Speaker, the new administration must actually devolve the functions properly, like we promised the people of Kenya. Let us respect county governments. Let us give them the money they require to deliver service to the people of Kenya. Mr. Speaker, as you look at this county county government additional allocation bill, bill number 2 of 2022, you will see, Mr. Speaker, that there are various development partners. There is the EU, which is giving us conditional grants on devolution advice and support. There's the German Development Bank, which is giving us grants on drought as a conditional grant. The World Bank is giving us a grant on emergency locust response and many other grants. Mr. Speaker, what has been happening is that since we have stayed in devolution for over 8 years, development partners have not been very committed to discussing matters directly with counties. And Mr. Speaker, this habit has developed because Treasury has encouraged it. There has been resistance from the national government to let go, and they have now reality that before I negotiate with Tana River County, I must go to the Treasury in Nairobi and speak to them. This mentality must change. We have developed county governments. We are living now in the third tier of the first devolution. Mr. Speaker, county governments are entities that must be given that respect. And our prayer from the Senate is that, Mr. Speaker, we can encourage the partners, development partners, to develop the habit of confidently discussing with our county governments, give them their space. Why? Because the PFM Act, Mr. Speaker, Section 38, it covers county governments to discuss grants and loans with development partners. So we want this to be the way forward in future. Mr. Speaker, prior to 2021, this kind of bill, the County Government Additional Allocations Bill, was not there. This is because previously, the Division of Revenue Act and the County Allocation Revenue Act were also being used to feed in the county government's allocations. Mr. Speaker, the county governors, they went to court, and in petition number 252 of 2016, they got an order that the Division of Revenue Bill and the County Allocation Revenue Bill should simply deal with the two national governments at DORB, and at the CARB, they should deal with the division of revenue across the 47 counties, and nothing more. That is why, Mr. Speaker, we had this county government additional.
Mr. Speaker has left. Now you have Madam Speaker.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. Oh,
Madam
sorry.
Speaker.
My apologies, Mr. Speaker. My apologies, Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, this bill, we should support it because this is what the High Court has said. It has said that we cannot have the county government's additional allocations bill being debated and passed within the DORB or the CARB. So, Mr. Speaker, what we need to do is to pass this bill. And I agree with previous speakers that we need to pass this bill. Why? Because this bill, as small as it looks, Mr. Speaker, it is going to release or unlock 32 billion that is hanging somewhere inside. It's hanging in the air. People have committed to doing something for our county governments, but the money cannot reach them because it is not yet passed under this bill. Mr. Speaker, the difference between this, the recent county government additional allocations bill, this bill number 2, and the one that was previously there, the one for the financial year 2021-2022, is that the present bill has incorporated the Equalization Fund. And my learned colleagues who have spoken before me, they have referred to this equalization fund. Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, I need to say this, that we need to pass this bill, yes, because we need to unlock the 32 billion. But we must pass it, Madam Speaker, with amendments. Why? Because we cannot force feed this bill with the equalization bill. The equalization fund has its own management staff. Mr. Speaker, the structure of and the architecture of the equalization bill is totally different from how we are supposed to manage the county government additional allocations. So, Madam Speaker, it will be wrong for this Senate to go ahead and pass the equalization fund within here, because we cannot even operationalize it as it stands using this. We must find the correct instrument for us to pass, and which means, Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, the chair of this finance committee must go back again and come up with an instrument, which will be the equalization fund bill, so that we can debate it, and it must fit within the already established structure, the board and the management of the equalization fund. Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, I wanted to agree with this previous senator for Nairobi, the previous speaker, who said that the equalization fund, which is heading to its sunset, needs to have more years. Madam Speaker, when we passed the Constitution in 2014, we created in 2013, this new Constitution we are operating on, we created the Equalization Fund, but we gave it a sunset year. After 20 years, that Equalization Fund was going to die. Mr. Speaker, what we are saying now, it is time that we introduced a bill, and Article 204 provides for extension of the Constitution, provides for the extension of this equalization bill. Madam Speaker, I pray that this committee will go back and look at a possibility of bringing back another instrument for the equalization fund standing on its own, so that we don't have confusion. Yes, Chairman. And also, Madam Speaker, we are also praying that the committee will go back and look again at Article 204. And if we have not even operationalized it for the last 12 years, and we have only 8 years to go, Madam Speaker, it is time that they go back again and bring another extension. And I'm sure we will get the numbers. We get an extension so that we push it, like the Honorable Senator Sifuna said, even 30 years, so that we can experience the benefit of equalization. Why, Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker? Because counties like Tana River, Madam Speaker, have been left behind. I have complained here before that previous administrations, previous government, even came up with papers, economic papers, justifying that we will continue to fund development in certain areas and ignore certain areas. Madam Speaker, more than 50 years after independence, you will find a number of tarmac roads that are passing through Tana River County. There are only those roads that are passing to connect between this and the other county. They are inter-county roads, Madam Speaker. You will not find tarmac, except just in the headquarters, which was done by the previous governor. Madam Speaker, we want this equalization fund to work. We want this equalization fund to be a reality. 50 years, more than 50 years after independence, we have been left behind, and it is by design of this government. Madam Speaker, when we see senators in this House arguing that there is marginalization in Nairobi, there is marginalization in big cities, so they are also entitled. Madam Speaker, I think this is a total misinterpretation of what Equalization Fund is meant to achieve. Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, Equalization Fund is meant to bring up counties that were left by design, by administrations of past governments. Madam Speaker, I pray that
Okay, you are granted the 1 minute. Just proceed.
as Madam Speaker was saying, when the instrument on the utilization and application of Equalization Fund is brought to this House through a bill, I pray, Madam Speaker, that the real reasons shall be achieved, which was to help far-off counties that were left deliberately by government marginalization, will achieve some reasonable level of development. It will be very unfair and immoral and wrong for counties that already benefited from previous administrations to come and argue that they themselves are also marginalized and should be given a share of this Equalization Fund. Madam Speaker, I pray that when the committee brings this bill, we shall be fair to counties that were left behind. Otherwise, Madam Speaker, I pray that we pass this bill, but we pass it with amendments in mind, which will make it not difficult to implement. We should have the Equalization Fund Act separate from this. So we should pass it, but pass it with amendment. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Senator. Could we have Senator Tobiko Pesi Perry?